Hello and welcome to this video. This is the video for our chapter 2 of the opening course about how to fight e4 like Fabiano Caruana. This video 2, chapter 2, is about sidelines on move 2. So we're talking about e4, e5, and now white goes for a sideline that is not d4 or f4. That is chapter 1. So we're not dealing with the early gambits, let's say, or the early attacking moves, even though some of the lines are somewhat in similar spirit, let's say, as the King's Gambit or so, but I had to simply split all the odds and ends into 2 chapters, otherwise it would just be too enormous for one. So in this chapter we have all the other lines, of which most important are knight c3, the Vienna game, quite transpositional, but still the Vienna, and most importantly we are dealing with bishop c4, the bishop's opening as it is called. This is by far the most important move at the professional level, because this is the only way really that promises some sort of an I don't think white has an advantage, but white can try to play for something while avoiding the Petroff altogether. So this is a move that has been played quite extensively against Caruana to avoid his Petroff preparation. In this chapter we will look at those 2 moves, but also look at some real rarities. Those are not very dangerous, but it's useful to know them and know the odd trap and odd weird idea to avoid any sort of trouble. So let's look at the obscure lines first and then go to the Vienna and the bishop's opening. The first move I want to check is the move queen to h5. White is going for a scholar's mate on the f7 square. This move is somewhat infamous. It was played by Nakamura quite a bit actually in the early 2000s. It is not great, the queen loses time, but it also is not so terrible that white will be immediately clearly worse. So okay, we cover our pawn on e5 and white goes bishop c4, threatening checkmate. Don't fall asleep now, we have to cover the mate. And I recommend to play g6, it's very logical, and queen f3, white insists on threatening mate, and now simply knight f6 is good to develop this piece. Here the only thing that we need to remember, and it's fairly obvious, is that we go for fianchetto. We're basically trying to make g6 count as a constructive move. So the bishop is good on g7, it always covers e5, and after d3, d6, I think black is quite harmoniously placed. It's not that black has a clear advantage. This is just, even after a slightly silly opening, not so easily possible. But here we are fine. The good idea is to play bishop e6 or knight a5, trading white's most active piece. I don't see any issue for black. Just don't feel too provoked by queen h5. It is a bit silly, but it's not so terrible that you should look for a quick refutation quickly. So back to the starting position here, queen h5. It's quite easily dealt with, but again, it's not like you're winning immediately. White also has tried the move knight to e2. That is very rare. I think it's called, is it the Alapin? I think it's named after Alapin. Knight e2. It looks a bit passive and it is not great. However, there are some tricks involved that we should avoid. For example, we should not play knight c6. That wouldn't quite fit with the Petroff repertoire, as after d4 we don't have anything better than take and we are in a Scotch opening. And also, not that this is not great for a Petroff player, it's also not something that you still want to allow after a slightly odd move like knight e2. My main recommendation is to play the move bishop c5. The bishop is on a good diagonal and we have good transpositional possibilities into a line that we have examined in the first chapter already, and this is after d4, which looks quite logical, takes, knight f6, and this is something that we have looked at in the very first chapter from a different move order that started with 2d4, ed4, knight f3, bishop c5, and black is fine. Just check this if you want to learn a couple of more moves, but black is already in good shape here. Instead of the move d4, white could try to get d4 supported here with the pawn. Against this, I recommend to play d5. That's a typical way of handling such a situation. Whenever white plays an early c3 and makes knight b to c3 or e to c3 impossible, a quick d5 makes a lot of sense. After something like this, the queen is just actively placed and we have a very convenient position. The same thing applies against 2c3. Very, very rarely played, but still I want to show that here again with d5 it's fine for black. The queen is simply not in any way attackable on that square with any good move. And as long as we don't take on d4, for example, after d4, I would not take on d4, but rather develop and ask white how he's continuing from this. From here, we have an easy game. Develop the bishop and castle long. c3 is extremely rare, but I just wanted to show that d5 is a good reply against very early c3s, because the queen will have an active position on d5. Okay, another move that you can face, and then in fact something where there's a little bit of trickery involved, is the move a3. That looks very silly, eh? Why is white playing such a move? It's just that you need to avoid one particular thing, and that is the following. Knight f6. Very logical to attack the pawn on e4, knight c3, and here is the critical position, a position that we will also see a little bit later when white starts with knight c3 on move 2. What is it all about? We should avoid the very normal looking move d5, playing in the Scotch style. This is actually not that great, because after the capture, knight takes, white has the interesting move queen to h5. And this, compared to a Scotch opening, is a case where the move a3 makes a difference, because if that would be a Scotch with the white pieces and black plays queen to h4, the most critical line would involve putting a knight here, which now is impossible. We have no problem at all, because we can alter the move order slightly. Here, we should not play d5. We want to play d5, but we shouldn't do it right away, but rather start with knight c6. And with this move, first, we prevent these problems with the pawn hanging on e5. Now white does not really have anything else than knight f3, and then we play d5. This is a position and a variation that we will examine in a later video. If I'm not mistaken, that should be chapter 3 actually, the 4 knights, the rare 4 knights. So a3, a bit odd, but avoid the very quick d5. You need to get the knight out first. Another move that, funny enough, was played against me, even though it is super rare, is c4. I had that in a classical time control game once, a couple of years ago. I was very surprised, and you don't really see that too often, that white plays e4 and c4. The overall pawn formation with those two pawns is in fact quite common out of the English opening, where white starts with 1 c4, and in this move order it is called the Botvinnik setup, the Botvinnik variation. This you might still call like that, because technically it is e4 and c4 is the Botvinnik setup, but this is a case where black is in very, very good shape, because we get an ideal formation against it. So I recommend knight c6, knight c3, and bishop c5. This is the thing. Here, black's formation is ideally coordinated to control the weak d4 square, and now, most importantly, the idea.
If you enjoyed the free video preview, make sure to go to chessable.com/fightlikecaruana to get the full course. The full course with the Move Trainer and video sync technology is an excellent way to learn all the ideas and strategies connected to this repertoire. These lines were essential in Caruana's fight to get the world title match, and they can be an essential part of your opening repertoire as well.